Hello, my beautifully messy, gloriously imperfect, gently used humans. Get ready to turn up the volume on your joy, purpose, and contagious energy. Today's guest is an absolute powerhouse of positivity, resilience, and unapologetic success. I'm talking about Niyc Pidgeon, an award-winning positive psychologist, best-selling author, and business mentor who helps people break through their blocks and create unstoppable success. She's the author of Now It's Your Chance and Unstoppable Success, and trust me, she's here to drop some serious mindset magic. This isn't just another think positive chat. Niyc is here to get real about breaking free of self-doubt, the ripple effect of awe, and why over-explaining is keeping you small. If you're ready to shift from survival mode to a hell yes mode, this episode is for you. Let's dive in. Niyc, welcome to the Gently Used Human. Y'all, this human being I love so much, so it's so exciting for me to be having Niyc on the show. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
I don't want to fetishize your accent, but every time but it's one of my favorite accents because it's really this blend of Irish and English, and it's like it's one of my favorite accents, actually.
Well, thank you. I think this is why I'm so good at sales. Somebody said that to me once. They were like, you could sell anything to anyone, not because you're actually good at sales, but because of your accent.
Oh, will you sell me a water bottle right now?
I will sell you a water bottle. Absolutely. It'll get you anything that you can imagine and so much more.
Oh my God, I'm sold. We'll break down that superpower on this podcast episode. You know, there is something, and I do want to talk about it a little later. So this is a little tease if you're listening. Like, the art of sales goes a lot more than capitalism. It's really about how you are essentially not just selling products, although that's a component of it, but like how you are presenting yourself in a way that gets people excited. Mm. And I do think there's this like interesting tension in psychology, and we're both in the realm of psychology, psychologist, and there's just almost this taboo about selling ourselves, and it has kind of a connotation of language that's like ew for a lot of people, but there is something about being yourself, and then this next volume up about how you like really present yourself in a way, in that authentic way that gets people excited.
Yeah, and I think that's important because if you can't be excited about your goals and your vision and where you're headed, then what else can you be excited about? Yeah. And I do think it's a blend between the two things. I think there has to be the vibrancy and the vision and holding that in a way that your client perhaps doesn't see or doesn't fully believe for themselves yet. Mm-hmm. But then also making sure that it's not just a hypey cheerleader, and that there's actually some challenge and some grounding in that as well. This came up yesterday, actually. So I'm hosting a retreat here at my place for a group of women that we go to Necker Island every few years. And one of my students that I'd taken there last year messaged me, and she was like, oh, remember when we were on Necker together? It was such a big breakthrough and such a big expansion moment, as it always is when you're on a private island with a billionaire. I know, right?
So, booze, y'all, booze.
Oh, yeah. And she was like, that was such a breakthrough moment. And one of the things you're so good at, Niyc, is like really living into that vision and really being able to see and be and feel and kind of expand beyond what you can immediately kind of see in your reality. Mm-hmm. So I really appreciate the reflection on that, because I think if you get stuck in just seeing everything that's around you, it can be really easy to be stuck in habits or routines or thinking that you're not going to get to where you want to go.
Yeah. It's interesting because, well, you're not on the dating market anymore, but I am. Bad timing for us, right?
That could have been fun.
That could have been interesting. I don't know about fun, but interesting. There's something that's come up that I found in dating, and I appreciate it when other people have commented on it, which is I like to ask the question, like, not only what is your passion, but like what turns you on? And I don't mean like just sexually. I often like preface that I don't mean sexually. Like, what makes you excited about another human being? And this is going back to what you were just saying, which is like there's the charismatic nature, there's the like the quality of another person, but so often what I hear is, do I feel like they have a sense of purpose and excitement, a passion about something they're doing, no matter what they're doing? Are they impassioned by it? And that really turns me on. And I hear that consistently on dates. And so I just wanted to reaffirm, like when we talk about your specialty, which is like happiness and some time too, like there's this quality of how do we present our sense of purpose, the thing that lights us up, the sense of our directionality, even if we're not so sure about what it is, that it actually has this magnetic nature to it.
Right. It's like that feeling of childlike wonder or the sense of awe. And I think purpose is such a great example, because on the days where you don't have the energy or the motivation to do the thing that you know that you need to do, but you keep putting off, you can really like draw from that sense of purpose, because it is the thing that energizes you so much. And I think we can get that in little moments in our life. And like looking at the plant or looking at the sunshine or being like, oh my God, I love Scott. He's amazing. And like getting that feeling of just like the juicy, like awe feeling, which is actually known to boost our well-being, because it gives us that like positive sense, whether you're looking at a waterfall or it's an amazing sunset, but it also helps us be better people as well. So I loved that distinction in the research where it says, you exhibit more pro-social behaviors, you're more likely to be generous, kind, fun, giving, loving when you experience more awe. So that's like a win-win, both for us and then for the rest of the world.
So the more we give like that sense of connection, like we even present our excitement, our sense of purpose, our je ne sais quoi, our energy, our zest, like the more other people receive it and want to give it back to the world.
And the more that we actively seek it out. So the more that, let's say I recognize that going for a walk in a particular place activates that sense of awe, or meeting a certain friend gives you that feeling of like, like that wonder, that like gasp feeling. The more that we can activate that in ourselves, the more that it supports us to build positive relationships, the more it supports us to bond and give and thrive. So I think of it like an upward spiral. And we're always either energizing the upward spiral or the downward spiral. And what happens is we're usually not doing it consciously. And unless you're being intentional about energizing the upward spiral, you are naturally, just by default, energizing the downward spiral. Not to be the bearer of bad news or anything. I'm supposed to be the positive psychologist here.
I really appreciate that, actually. And because there is something, when we talk about that energy, that sense of awe, it is contagious. You know, even if we're having a hard time finding it in ourselves, we can find it in nature, like you said, like in a waterfall or in someone else's moment to shine in that. And just actually what might seem selfish, a little selfish, but do it, which is to soak it in, marinate it into your being, because it has that contagious quality to it or capacity. I know that you have written books about depression and suicide, and like this idea of so many of us feel stuck and like kind of underwater, especially with what's happening in the world right now. And so it's not to override that. It's not to say what you're feeling, just ignore it. It's saying like, can you tap into where there isn't just that, if it not in yourself, in other people, in other aspects of nature, in a TV show.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't even have to be going out into nature. That's better. Yeah. And you could look at it on your phone, and they've done studies that show that, like even a photo of nature can activate that feeling. And the positive ripple effect impacts 135 people. So now you feel better. You're walking around in a vibe with a smile on your face. 135 people. So think about if everybody just did that, and if people knew about the negativity bias in the brain, which is like we just default to a set point and we need 3 positives to outweigh every 1 negative. So we're not talking about toxic positivity or bypassing. We're just talking about the fact that we need to do better at looking after ourselves better, because that emotional contagion effect is something that works. It's real. And why wouldn't you want to feel better more of the time?
That ripple effect of awe is my new love language.
Ooh.
Yes. I just like, as you say, 135 people get to like bask in the glow of when you have this moment of awe. Like that makes me so excited.
Right?
Like,
let's be contagious together.
Let's be contagious together. I'm like, I kind of want to end the podcast and go walk outside and let people bask in this shit.
Bask in me.
Bask in me. Y'all, I want you to take this podcast in your ear, go walk outside, and if we made you laugh, if we made you giggle, if we made you excited, let other people go bask in that. Give the world permission to receive the bask of your glow.
I love this. We're paying it forward today.
We're paying it forward. Oh, I love that. Now, you said some words that I want to dive into which is toxic positivity. And those are juicy fucking words for me, because when I was in school, and you're a positive psychologist, I was like told over and over again, and like toxic positivity and equating it with positive psychology. And then like positive psychology was just like, just focus on what's good. And that's like an old school positive psychology paradigm. Like you are the new paradigm, Nick.
Oh, yes.
Like you are like, no, y'all. Well, tell everyone about like what the new paradigm is and what kind of the old paradigm was.
Yeah, it's all of it. We always want to experience all of life, all of emotion, like the richness, the fullness, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because there's so much richness within everything. Yeah. So toxic positivity, or when people say like, oh, you just have to be positive all of the time, just think positive thoughts and do affirmations. Yes, that works. And it's not realistic. And it's also not actually supportive to our growth. And I used to be that girl. I used to be the positive psychologist who didn't feel happy all of the time, but who pretended to be happy all of the time.
Oh, shit. You better call yourself out. Okay.
Yeah, because I felt ashamed that I didn't feel happy all of the time. So I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Everything's good. And I actually had reflections later in life from friends who said, Nick, we always felt like we couldn't connect as well with you then as we can now, because there was no vulnerability. There was like this armor, this protectiveness. And I think in some part it just comes with maturity, and it comes with getting to know yourself and knowing who you are. And it actually came a lot through me consolidating and integrating some really, really challenging, traumatic life experiences that helped me feel and see the polarity, and then really helped me find a resolution through that. And now I know that even if it feels hard, there's so much growth within it. Even if it is a challenging day, there's something that we can do to create a shift. And positive psychology is the scientific study of what it is that makes people thrive. And one of the things that we actually see that makes people thrive is when they can find those lessons and learnings through adversity, and not feel like there's anything wrong with having experienced challenge, but understand that we go on to be stronger and more successful because of it, not in spite of it.
Can I ask you something personal?
Always.
I love you.
Uh-oh.
No, it's not a proposal. No, I would never publicly. Oh, yes, I would. Okay.
Yeah, you would.
So, yeah, I would. Totally, 100%. In fact, tonight when I see you, I'm just going to propose.
It's on.
It's
wonderful.
On. So when you were in that armored position where it was like the mask of happiness, the mask of positivity that you were wearing, what was the consequences inside for you during that time?
I felt like I was two versions of myself, and it felt very, very exhausting because it felt like every day I was showing up trying to be a version of myself that didn't feel in integrity from the inside. And it was a long time ago now. It was over 10 years ago. But when you asked me that question, I went straight back to a very particular time when I was working as a personal trainer. And when you're in that kind of guidance role and you're helping other people and you're supporting them with their goals, there is a certain degree of, I have to show up and be the happy person because this person's coming to me for support. Yeah. And I didn't give myself space outside of that to actually really be in the processing, to really reach out to friends or lean back and allow myself to be supported. And I think at the time, honestly, it's because I didn't necessarily, number one, have the tools, but it really came down to, I felt like it was wrong to ask for help. I felt like it was wrong to feel bad some of the times. So I got my own hard lessons and learnings through that. And now I just think it's one of the most beautiful things to be able to connect through challenge. And anytime someone shares with me that they're going through something hard, it just like makes me love them more.
You're so sweet. Thank you for sharing that, because I think a lot of us can kind of relate to maybe one of two polarities, which is I'm trying to put a smile on my face. I'm trying to walk out the door for my kids and say everything's okay. I'm trying to go to work and just, put on the mask of everything's good. Let's get to business. Let's just do this, or wanting to be kind of a beacon of love or a beacon of joy for other people. But inside we're in so much pain. And I can relate to that. And so I imagine so many other people can too. Like as a psychologist, I felt like I had to always be in great mental strength and shape, and it's not the job of a client or to hear what shit I'm going through. But even as I became doing more public things, I had this sense of like, oh, I should have my shit together. And as opposed to I'm a gently used human being trying to figure it out. And I have, even though I know certain things, and I've read these books or I've written these books, I fuck it up. And I think it's so important to rehumanize ourselves and go, ooh, we might have this idea of what we should look like on the outside, how we should come across. And this is the tension again about like selling ourselves, presenting ourselves, expressing ourselves. But if the inside doesn't permeate through, then it's just a fucking mask. It's just a mask. And we're living this life as a false entity.
And when you look at what it is that actually helps us to feel good or protects our mental health, belonging and connection is one of those things. And then you think about to what extent can you really truly connect with someone if you're not showing up as your true self or your full self, or you're only sharing a little small piece of it. Yeah. I think it's so important to know who your people are and to know where your spaces are, where you can receive that support. Yeah. Because what I hear from students or I've experienced myself is if you voice something that you feel vulnerable about, or it feels like an edge and you're getting out of your comfort zone by speaking up about a need or by expressing yourself in a way that perhaps feels like really courageous for you, and then it's not met in a way that feels supportive and loving and caring, then it can actually do more harm than good. So I feel like I started to practice, whether it was with a therapist or it was with trusted friends and counsel, to really almost like exercise the muscle of being able to share vulnerably, and also being mindful that we still need the reinforcement of the positive. So we're not going into being Debbie Downers or complainers or blamers 24/7. We're just saying, look, like I am human. And I love the name of the show. When I saw the name of the show, I was like, this really landed for me in my body because it just is what we are. And we get to show up as all of ourselves, good, bad, and ugly again. And just know that that is actually the best opportunity that we have to be navigating this plane together and walking the walk and being like, sometimes it's not going to be easy, but you know what? When you've got each other and you've got those places and spaces to belong, it's going to be 10 times easier than if we're trying to do it alone or we're trying to do it in a false way.
I think that's such a good sales for, you sold me on a water bottle and you sold me on being a gently used human. Because it's true. It's like the thing, all those studies on happiness, all of them point to a sense of belonging. And if that sense of belonging is blocked by our own inability to be ourselves, to have our true, authentic experience and to offer it to the world and to be received by other people, then we have no chance. We have such a little chance, I should say, for that sense of belonging, that happiness that could be available to us.
Yeah. And then speaking into existence, remember that our words are so powerful. So a day of no complaining is worth its weight in gold. And being intentional around your communication. So whilst you have your trusted places that you've got your wise counsel or your confidants, just know in general, if we can get better at speaking out more of what we do want rather than what we don't want, we're going to be able to create more positive, productive momentum within our lives. So they've done studies that looks at the impact of the words that we speak. And they've done it in teams, they've done it with relationships. And it's, have you heard of the positivity ratio?
No, tell me about it.
Oh, it's cool. It's cool. It's a good, solid foundational piece of research in positive psychology that shows that we need 3 or more positives, interactions, communications, thoughts to outweigh every 1 negative. And when you're in a marriage, it's, here we go. Buckle up, baby.
Buckle up, y'all.
11 positives for every 1 negative. So think about most people's communication patterns. Like, the dishwasher isn't loaded the right way. I'm so tired. You didn't pick your socks up off the floor. Now you've got 3 positives. Imagine now you've got to load 33. Sorry, you've got 3 negatives. You've got to load 33 positives just to get back to a baseline.
Wow. I'm having flashbacks of past relationships that I was like, well, that ship was sinking for so many reasons, but including this.
Yeah, and it's an oversimplification, but I also think it helps when you have an extreme piece of research like that, where you've got a reference point and you can say, oh, I remember when Nick and Scott were talking about that thing, and now maybe I need to just be a little bit more intentional around my positive communication.
Yeah, this is where it gets so complicated. So if you're listening, you're like, wait, you're telling me to be authentic. You're telling me to share my experiences that are painful and sadness and anger and frustration, but you're also telling me not to complain. What the fuck? And if you're having that tension point, you're in the right place. So let's break it down, Nick. How do we, as a human, gently used human being, share our sadness, share our anger, share the full spectrum of being human, but not kind of bring down the vibe, not bring down, find ourselves in just complaining and basically destructing the relationships?
Remembering that we get to feel and process for ourselves first. So it's really dialing in that attunement to ourselves and what we feel and starting to be more practiced and proficient at naming what we feel. So, okay, I'm feeling something in my body right now, and I'm feeling that it is sadness, and I'm feeling it inside my stomach area, or I'm feeling it in my heart, or whatever the feeling is, naming it and actually claiming it. And then asking what it is that it's trying to show you or tell you, or maybe what it's associated with. And I always like to be in that process myself first and have the mindfulness and the reflectiveness to meet myself before I go and ask for opinion or I ask for support. I think that has served me well. And being a recovering overgiver, we've talked about this before. I previously would go and do for others before I would do for myself. And that left me feeling very depleted. And whether I was speaking things out to others or I was going to help others, I wasn't looking after myself first. And what I learned is when we strengthen our own selves first, we're actually able to more powerfully help other people. So I like to have a pulse on what it is I'm feeling. And the more you practice it, the better it'll get. So then when you take it to a friend, you know what it is. You've got more clarity on what support you might want to ask for, whether you want someone just to be present with you and you just want a friend there with you in your space, or you want a hug, or you need someone to listen so that you can vent, or maybe you do want support and advice. But sometimes it's hard to know what to ask for if you don't know what it is that you're feeling first. And then I think getting into relationships where people are willing to understand that you don't always need the same thing all of the time. So sometimes you do need to just vent and listen. Other times you're like, listen, I know that you can help me with this thing. Do you have a tool? Or do you have a story that you can tell me that I can see that this is temporary and it's going to be better in the future? So we're stronger when it's shared, but I think it has to be shared from a place of you resourcing yourself first.
That was so brilliant. I mean, truly, if you're at home listening to this or in the car or wherever you are, just pause for a moment and just give yourself that offering. Check in. What are you feeling right now? Maybe you've been processing things all day. You're waiting to just tell that person off, or you can't wait to vent to your friend or a coworker. But pause first. Give yourself that tool that Niyc is offering of really checking in with yourself. What if you were the first truest witness of your own experience? That you got the clarity that you could then be that much more seen and connected with because you connected with it first. I love that, Niyc. And I have to say, as you were saying that, I was like, oh, I got to get better at that. I think we all can.
It's always a practice, like all of this life. And I think as soon as you think that you've figured it out, you then just get a bigger challenge. I feel like a lot of my growth and maturity has come through really letting go of judgment. I didn't think that I was a judgmental person when I was younger. And I realized I was a very, very harsh critic of myself. And also I had a little vibe of when things were good, I'm like, things are great. Like, I'm good. And how can anyone be unhappy when it's easy to feel this happy, even after everything I'd gone through? And what I found is anytime I've judged myself or judged another, I've had the lesson on the flip side to actually see that in reverse and to have to be able to handle it. So I think you can also ask, like, where am I perhaps judging myself or judging another person right now? And where can I move into both radical honesty around that and also radical acceptance of what is?
Yeah. Yeah. The more we can yield into what is here, the less the fight that is kind of like keeping us away from actually belonging to ourselves and other people, and the ease of moving through things.
And being grateful for how it is right now.
Or fucking sad. I'm fucking sad right now about how things are in the world. And there are elements that I'm grateful enough that I can be with my feeling of sadness and still feel like I can connect with friends or do a podcast or whatever it is.
And like hold on to hope as well.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because we have this term called toxic positivity. But on the flip side, we also have something, and we've alluded to it, but which is essentially toxic negativity or an addiction to drama, as I like to call it. But it is essentially an attachment to focusing on things that stress us out or the negative that is also an armor, that is also preventing us from feeling that belonging connection as well. So it really is this balancing act of really connecting to ourselves as a way of connecting other people by not throwing logs on our positive fire or not throwing logs on our negative fire either, as a way to not be in relation to ourselves to other people.
Yeah, you just reminded me of I love a question. Like, I'm a real coach at heart, and I love a powerful question. And I ask myself these things, and I ask them to our students as well. I'm like, where are you allowing yourself to be distracted right now? And what is it that you're tolerating in your life and world right now? And I love those two questions because it almost gives you this feeling of like, oh, like I've been doing the thing that perhaps has been keeping me in a certain holding pattern, and it's been good enough to keep things good enough. But it's also really been a distracting behavior. So that could be sticking around in the wrong relationship for too long, or it could be alcohol and drugs. It could be exercise. It can be anything. But it's like, is there a goal or an intention or something that you would love to be or accomplish that you're noticing that you're perhaps not moving forwards to with such momentum as you would like? What are the behaviors that you're seeing that you're where you're distracting yourself? And then what are you tolerating? And what might you be able to let go of or shift for things to be easier?
I want to take a moment to give a loud shout out to the Embody Lab, which is one of the most incredible resources for body-based and somatic therapies. This show is all about healing, and the Embody Lab does exactly that. Whether you're on your own journey of transformation and discovery, or enhancing your skill sets in your career as like a coach or a therapist, a body worker, or really any career where you are supporting other gently used humans, the Embody Lab is your place for deep, inspiring, and impactful workshops, certificates, masterclasses, and an incredible community of like-minded folks. I love the Embody Lab, and so do so many other people that call it a platform to come home to over and over again. The Embody Lab is giving my listeners an exclusive offer, a one-time 10% off code to enhance your embodied well-being. All you have to do is go to theembodylab.com and use the code GentlyUse10 at checkout. This is a great tension point for me. And I know for you too. It's fun when we know each other so well that
I know, because I'm like, why have I been doing this to myself?
Because you and I have both we've had this conversation about as people who give and self-abandon ourselves in the process as a way of preservation. If we're giving, we actually aren't in the vulnerability of receiving, and we're protected from the possibility of not receiving, of not being seen, of not being connected with, loved. And what usually comes with that is a threshold of tolerance that we might feel like it's our own championship, essentially. Like, we deserve a fucking trophy for the amount we've tolerated. And we might go, oh, I can tolerate so much stress, or I can tolerate so much abuse, or I can tolerate so much trauma even. And so I must have a shit ton of resilience, but it's actually not the same as true resilience. What are you tolerating?
I feel like I've been...
you tolerated?
Yeah, I feel like... No, what I've been tolerating recently is not having as much energy as I would like to have. And this kind of comes in loops for me at various different points in my life, whether it's been navigating mold poisoning or not looking after my sleep as well as I could. So that is something that I notice. I don't operate at my full capacity when I feel like that. I think another one would be in relationship. Like, I've definitely tolerated in relationship, and I've over-explained, or I have seen the best in people where perhaps that was harmful to myself. And hindsight's an amazing thing because you can look back and say, oh, I really put myself through that. And I thought, you know what, I've just got to get through it. Just get on with it. Just keep on going. And that was harmful to myself. And I got a lot of lessons from that once I had the awareness. And I feel like we move through these phases and we transcend them at the times and the points where it's right for us to do so. Sometimes we just don't have the awareness of the way that we're showing up or the way that we're behaving until you're ready to heal it and you're ready to shift it. So I think for me, I always had a over-optimism in some of those situations where I thought that it would be okay, or I thought that if I just loved someone harder, then it would get better, or I thought that because I'm a reflective person, because I'm intentional, because I'm growth focused, that everyone else is as well. And that's just not the case. And sometimes the best thing that you can do is get radical honesty with yourself, but then also be accountable to that and take responsibility for it and do something differently. And I think when you start to listen to your intuition and you start to practice being in integrity with yourself and the way that you feel and with the actions that you take, then you can start to feel stronger and clearer and more understanding of what it is that is right and is healthy for you and what it is that's actually taking you off course.
There's so much gold in what you just said. I'm like, I want to unpack it all. Can we start with over explaining? Because I actually like that. The moment you said that, I don't know, I felt chills. Can you over explain? No. Can you explain what over explaining is and where it comes from? Because I think for most of us, we have actually been deep in the process of over explaining. It's such a symptom of either past trauma or current experiences of being so unmet or unseen, or the projection that we're being unmet or unseen.
Yeah, I've experienced it in myself and also for other people. So I've had it where I was almost apologizing for the way that I was showing up, even though I was showing up in a great way. Or let's say a simple example. I was running late for something. Like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. All these things. So that's a simple example of you over explaining something or over apologizing. With other people, I feel like I had looked at someone's behavior, and I think because I also am a psychologist.
Yeah.
And I look at, okay, somebody's showing up in anger, but it's because of their childhood trauma.
Yeah.
So I was almost rationalizing someone's outpicturing of what was going on inside. And I was giving them permission in a way to be that and do that because I knew where it was coming from, even though they weren't taking responsibility or being honest about the destructiveness of that behavior. So I think that's where we get into that codependency of, I know that if this was me and I was having an outburst that was affecting my relationships, then I would go see my trauma practitioner or my therapist, or I'd go and do some work with plant medicine, and I'd really go inwards and I'd look at why is this behavior coming up in this way that's not conducive to the way that I want to move through my life and build relationship. And you can't want something for someone else that they're not willing to want and do for themselves. So I think there was an uncoupling over maybe it's all the way through our lives, but I really had a strong pattern of that in the last 5 years. So 5 years up until maybe a couple of years ago when I did a lot of work on this specifically. And I just let go of being over responsible for other people's feelings and behaviors. You can meet someone in the mess if they're willing to receive and be open to having the mirror held up and then doing something about it. But not everyone is willing to do that. No, they're not.
We wish they were, but no, they're not.
But it's also okay because it's their path and their journey and their map of the world. And we're not responsible for that. You're never responsible for someone else's healing. You're responsible for going back to that idea of strengthen yourself first.
Yeah.
And then you'll show up and you'll meet people in your life that are on that same frequency and vibration and are willing to be in that kind of positive, supportive relationship together with you.
Yeah. Or at least be in the process of like, this isn't easy for me. I'm trying to figure it out. The transparency of that at least is a good point. If we're not able to show up for someone, to be like, if Nick, you were in this place where we had a rupture. I don't even know if that's possible between us, but if
let's try
it tonight.
Maybe
too.
If I say no to the proposal tonight.
Oh yeah.
I would never say no, by the way.
And I would probably just turn around and be like, I support your decision.
Yeah, I know, right? You actually would.
I probably would. And I'm like, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah.
Is there anything I could have done differently to support you, or a different way I could have proposed? But we'll try that tonight. But if we were in a rupture and it's like, and I get triggered, the value of being like, hey, I got to pause. This is a lot in me. And I realized I'm not even showing up for me. I can't show up for you, and I want to. And so it's not that we, versus a rupture where it's like, Nick, I totally hear you. Let me take account. I'd love to take accountability and really like say, I shouldn't have proposed in front of our friends. I should have like checked in with you about like what environment makes you comfortable. I'd like to do differently. Can I learn more about you and about what makes, like to really go into the accountability process is very also great, but it's not always possible.
That level of communication that we have in friendship and I have now in relationship, going back to that feeling of the awe and this feels so good, like that sense of wonder and like, yes, I get that from that level of communication.
Me
like
too.
It feels like clear, honest, supportive conversation is like, it's such a yes.
It's our kink.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's something that I didn't always have in relationship. And I think it's something that's very precious and something that we get to cultivate because it is something that you have to walk gently. Yeah. We're all very different as humans. And I think something that's good to take on is the energy of curiosity. It's like we don't always know. We don't even always know for ourselves, never mind know for each other. So the more curious we can be, the easier and the more gentle the path is going to be. Yeah.
I think if I could pick one quality that I find so attractive is curiosity. And I think people, and it's not an intellectual curiosity is actually a state like happiness. Like the neurobiology of curiosity, it really elicits this full body hunger for discovery that's palpable. And if you don't find yourself in that state, if you're just like, I wonder like that, that's not curiosity, y'all. Curiosity is like you feel it, you crave it, you desire it. You're in a process where it's like, I want to know more. What is that? Like, how does the mail system work? Like, have you ever seen the U.S. Postal Service documentaries?
No, but now I am curious and I want to go watch it.
It's so insane that anything happens. Like, I have the same thing where it's like, and curiosity fluctuates per subject. Like, I had this whole period of time where I was like, how does embryology work? How do we become a sperm and an egg into this crying thing? And I'm like, I need more. And I'm so curious. I want to talk to people. But to be with another human being in that state of hunger for discovery, of getting to know them as they get to know you, is just so juicy.
So juicy. It's like a full body curiosity, right? I think it's like not logic. It's like this full feeling. And I like that curiosity shifts us out of confusion. I used to stick in confusion in my mind a lot and say, oh, I'm so confused about this. I'm so stuck. I'm in conflict. I don't know what to do. I don't know what the right path is. It's like, actually, if you let go of having to have the right perfect answer all of the time and it not needing to be option A or option B, and get curious around option C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, then what might be possible from that place?
Yeah. If y'all are like kind of feeling a little like squirmy on the inside and like kind of excited, that's the contagiousness of curiosity. Curiosity is one of the top 3 states that is contagious. It's up there with love, stress, and then we have curiosity. Because like when we're in it, it's like this sense of being seen on so many different levels and knowing that someone is going to catch us as we open. And that's the really true magic of curiosity. It's like if I'm like asking you a question, Nick, about like over explaining, like it feels like when you're talking about it, you've had a lot of deep history from it. And I'm wondering, like, when was the last time you felt like you had to over explain?
I catch myself now.
Yeah.
I really catch myself. And I also practice holding people powerful. I used to worry a lot about people and think, oh, I hope they're going to be okay, or maybe I need to help. Or now I'm like, I see you in your power and your brilliance and your strength and your fullness. And I hold you in that. I hold you in the royalty. Yeah. And I hold you powerful to be able to process and find solutions in and for yourself. And that we get to be in that process together. And that has really served me well, because it's helped me hold a stronger space and a clearer container, but it's also helped people really rise into that sense of personal power rather than staying stuck in what might be a little bit more victimhood.
Now, if you're listening, Nick, I'm gonna go meta for a moment. So I asked her this question from a place of curiosity. And then as I'm listening, there are several points where something in me goes, I want to be with you. Not, I just want to know more. I want to be with you more in like the layers of this. And that's like, when you feel that, that's such a juicy place to then go, let's go into that. Or, you know, see if that's the place that we're also willing to go into. I'm like,
yeah, it's like an unfolding or like a tumbling of like ideas and curiosity. It's like, ooh, what next?
Yes.
Tell me more about that.
Yes. And if you're really like attuning to someone, if you're present with them, listening to what they're saying now and in that hunger for discovery, they will feel held in a way that is so magical. Like when you're with someone, and think about an example for yourself. The time when someone's been really with you and you could feel them like truly interested. And it's like this sense of being like, I can unfold and not collapse because I'm being held in that unfolding. And there's something so freeing and liberating as like that origami creature that we folded ourselves into to present ourselves in a certain way gets to unfold into its true like potentialness, to fold into anything else again, to come into any expression, but it lets us release from the thing that we have held ourselves in, that shape or that animal, to once again come into that place of potentiality.
I love this. Have you and I ever talked about origami before?
No.
Because I love it.
Me too.
Let's do that together one day. We're going to do origami.
I'm going to propose. We're going to have a rupture and repair process, and we'll then do origami as part of that.
I love this. What a life. What a life.
What a life.
And I like the idea of asking more questions anytime we feel like we want to be defensive or opinionated or react or assume even. We get to be in the process of taking a pause, like you said, and then really tapping into that curious energy and maybe asking a question instead of giving advice, or maybe asking a question instead of assuming that you've received a communication in a certain way. And there's just so much beauty in that kind of conversation where we get to say, I'd love to know more about this, or can you tell me about this particular thing? Like, I'd love to understand how you feel about that. And that is it's more of like a adventure. It's an exploration rather than these kind of harsh, dead-end conversations where they can escalate into conflict if there's an assumption or a lack of clarity. So I love choosing our own adventure.
Those type of questions, I'm just going to say it, y'all, they turn me on. They turn on my soul where I'm like, yes, let's do this. And if you're one of those people who gets like, you know, full body turned on by like someone truly unfolding with you, then welcome to this episode. DM us. Let us know how, like, truly write us and let us know the questions that turn you on the most in terms of this unfolding discovery curiosity. We want to hear them. We want to create a whole list. We want to hear
the questions. I'm like, come unfold. Let us unfold with you.
Let us unfold together. And
then we'll go in the world and we'll glow.
Yeah. Nick, what is your favorite question right now to unfold with people? I heard a few of them before, but like, what's your favorite right now?
I really love, this is a go-to for me, like what feels exciting for you right now. Mm-hmm. And there's a default pattern where when you see someone, it's like, hi, how are you? Oh, the traffic was really bad on the way here or whatever. But what are you excited for right now? It gets people to stop in their tracks, even though it's very simple and it's a very easy question. The answer can be hard for people to land on. I love asking, what's bringing you joy right now? And then you get something that's creative and constructive, and everyone loves talking about the things that make them happy. And then you can ask, how can I help with that? I like to ask myself, how can I surprise someone today?
Yes. Again, I'm getting wet. So spiritually speaking, those are great questions. My two favorite questions right now. And the first one is more, I reserve it for like really more intimate relationships or deep, like really close friends, which is, how can I love you today? Which is a really tough question. I asked someone that the other day and they said, I don't know. No one's ever asked me that. I really need time to like let that question in to know that I can answer it. And the other question that I love to ask people lately, and I asked you this week, is what is your organizing principle?
Oh, I love that question.
And we'll unpack that. And then I'm going to ask you what your organizing principle is.
Okay. I love both of those questions.
Yeah.
I love how can I love you today? I feel like it has a different texture to what do you need right now? I'm going to use that. I'm going to practice that.
Tonight, when I propose?
Yes!
Y'all, clearly we need to bring the video camera
I know, this is going to go viral.
To the restaurant, but yeah. We'll try to record it for you. And we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, I'm like, DM us the word proposal and we'll send it to you.
Oh my gosh. Organizing principle. I'm glad you like it. I will ask you. I know I haven't asked you that question this week.
I love learning new vocabulary.
Yeah.
So I haven't heard this phrase in my life ever.
Yeah.
So I had a curiosity around, is it what I think it is? And am I answering it in the right way?
Yeah.
So for me, my immediate answer is that my organizing principle is my health routines and having the structure around that, because it gives me a grounding and it gives me a certain sense of safety in my world. Yeah. I know that if that's in place, if I'm going to my Kundalini yoga and I'm doing my meditation and I've got my ice bath and my sauna and my workouts, I'm like, okay, I'm good. Then I'm switched on, ready for everything else in my life.
Yeah.
Did I answer it right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Organizing principle is what essentially grounds us, anchors us, helps us be in relation to life in a way that is like a container. Now, if you are like all other human beings out there, especially as gently used human beings, life is chaotic. Life is in fluctuation, and there are certain things that help us feel more put together, so to speak. Like, one of my organizing principles is to be in relationship. Like it's not that I function better, but I'm able to really organize my thoughts and my objectives and my goals more succinctly, more clearly when I'm in relationship. And for other people, an organizing principle might be work. They can really when their work is the organizing principle, they think about it. They have this structure or system in place that is this container that helps them like hold and organize all their thoughts and experiences to get some sense of directionality. And like other friends have said, my yoga practice or something that I have more consistently, or my hobbies are really my organizing principle. It helps me feel structured amongst the chaos and fluctuations of this dance of life.
I'd be so curious about, here I go again, curious, about the data set on this, because for most people, if you look at what most people do with most of their day, it's work or it's be a parent, for example.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know how many people would actually say that it's work, or how many people it would be work for, that maybe they're perhaps not being honest that that's what it is.
Yeah. Because I think people go to work. It's the thing they maybe like, it's a consistent factor, but that's not the same as an organizing principle.
Okay, so how would that be different then if someone's going to work, but they have a different organizing principle?
Yeah. So if I go back to even like relationships for me, and I really came into clarity of this not too long ago, because I was like, I feel like my goals, I actualize them faster. I get more clear on them. I have this real love for adventure and travel, but I don't do it when I'm on my own. I can, and I have. So it's not like a complete codependency. It's that I feel like I can plan a trip. I love planning that trip. I love thinking about the flow of the day or the flow of that adventure in relationship with someone else. And so it's like an organizing principle, whereas it's just the thing, like if travel, for example, is my organizing principle, versus if I just do it, like if I'm just going on a trip, it feels like, oh, I get a break. But if it's my organizing principle, this idea of exploration, to be curious about other cultures, like I start to like really think about like, oh, I have this fitness goal, but it's around the travel so that I can hike Machu Picchu. Or so these things, other elements in my life get really more organized or more codified, more in flow in relationship to the thing that actually helps me be most organized.
I love this. So mine's definitely my health and my routines, for sure. It's almost like that's a domino. That's the first domino, and then everything else is in line after that, or it's the golden thread that goes through everything. Yeah. Thank you for this.
No,
you really gave me something.
What I give you?
The organizing principle.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like now I have clarity on this. This is really huge.
Yeah, like we're gonna put my socials and Nick's socials in the show notes. We'll also say them, but DM us. Let us know what your organizing principle is. Like we want to be part of the data set collection with you. We want to be in this research with you. We are curious creatures about your organizing principle.
And I feel like even now I know that, it gives me the opportunity to be even more aligned with it. Mm-hmm. It's like when you know what you're good at, you become stronger and more successful. So when you know that you've got this frame or this structure or this map of the world that runs through everything that you do, you get to lean into that even more.
Mm-hmm. It's so, to me, the moment I had this clarity of like, oh, this is my organizing principle, as opposed to this is something that's important to me, like to really understand how I feel more clear and ability to like actualize things in my life, I'm like, I stopped judging it too, which is great. I stopped going, oh, I put too much energy or focus into my fitness or my health or whatever it is that we feel like we might be judging ourselves or other people are judging us for really focusing on. But when we recognize it as an organizing principle, it's like, well, of course we would put our focus and attention there. It anchors us.
Yeah, and then from that, everything else is burst and flows and is more expansive. That's so true. Yeah. So for some people, I wonder if it could be sleep. Could that be one?
I guess so. I think so. I mean, there's a lot of sleep rituals and people put, I don't know. I don't sleep. So it's hard for me to imagine that.
But that's a good example then. Like you don't actually need that to find your flow, but someone else might not need to be in partnership or relationship.
Yeah.
They might feel that that's actually takes them away from their truth or takes them away from their peace.
And you kind of named a key word here, and I think we both named it, which is flow. In the flow research, if you just try to make your whole life in flow, it's much harder to do that, because the athletes or the artists that they research who are able to enter into flow states is because they have a solidified organizing principle, like sports, like the piano. Like it's this thing that isn't just like the thing that they do. It's the thing that they organize around. And that's such an important distinction.
So true. I think that freedom actually comes from structure. And when I think about, I have like my productivity and success protocols in Notion that I share with my boyfriend. And one of the things that I have on there is no big decisions unless you've done a workout before. And it's like, if you're feeling stressed, do a workout and then come back to the activity. So that's evidence that that's an organizing principle.
That's such good evidence. We really need to be with this. That's another example. It's like, okay, well, maybe it's hard for me to do that check-in that Nick gave me earlier about like, I stay with myself. It's like, what thing? Is it working out? Is it sleep? Is it work? That kind of gives me a certain level of like, here I am, so that I can attend to myself more clearly. It's almost like it helps me locate myself. That's part of an organizing principle. So
would that be for you you would want to, like, using that process as an example, you would want to be in that process with someone else and say, I am practicing getting in tune with myself. Would you want to do it like that? Is that how you would relate the two things together?
Yeah. I mean, it's the same reason we have a therapist, most of us, or a coach, right? It's because actually relationship is an organizing principle for many of us. It's like, can I do the same work on my own? Yeah, I can journal. I can talk to myself. I can do all of these practices, but I like doing them in relationship with someone else. I'm an open processor. Even like I go to therapy sessions and I don't say a word. I just really like being with someone while I attend to myself. Can I do it on my own? Yes. That's the difference between codependency and interdependency. But the interdependency of it is like, it just helps me be like, oh, here's where I am. And I feel really clear about that. Now I can really get, okay, my goals, the things I want to get done, it all comes more into that flow state.
It makes such a difference. I'm going to be like vibing through my day even more now. Now that I know this. It's so cool. So cool.
I love it. So y'all, write us, let us know your organizing principle, whatever it is, and how you know it. That's the other thing we want to know. What is your organizing principle and what lets you know that? Nick, this has been such a delicious pleasure. I cannot wait to propose to you tonight, get rejected, do the rupture and repair work, and then do some processing with you.
And be better because of it as well.
Better because of it. My love, where can everyone find you? And we'll put all your books in the show notes and all of that as well. But let us know where we can get connected with you.
Amazing. Thank you. My favorite place to hang out is on Instagram. So that's at Niyc Pidge, and it's spelled Niyc, and then Pidge, as in pigeon, like the bird.
And anywhere else? Is that where people can find you? Which
That's
website?
The easiest place. I've also got the Unstoppable Success podcast, which I'm so excited to have you on the show. Ooh. And my website is niycpidgeon.com. Then the books are Now Is Your Chance, One More Day, and Unstoppable Success as well.
And they are bestsellers, y'all, because they're that
bestsellers.
Good.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, Nick. It is such a pleasure to have you. And to all our gently used humans out there, we love you. Thank you for listening to the Gently Used Human podcast with Dr. Scott Lyons and friends. Visit gentlyused.com for fun extras. And don't forget to spill the tea and gossip about the show with all your friends and frenemies. And show some love by giving us 5 stars and leaving a review in your favorite apps. This helps us connect with all the other gently used humans out there. Oh, and by the way, you look fierce today.